She said it softly, like she didn't mean for it to come out. "You're closer than you should be." The words hung there, not angry, not even warning. Just true. I should have stepped back, maybe laughed it off. Instead, I froze. Clara had this way of saying things that made silence feel heavier than speech. The kind of pause where air thickens, where even the hum of the refrigerator starts to sound like a heartbeat. I'd come by to drop off a camera lens I'd borrowed from her son. He wasn't home, said his mom would be around. Just leave it with her. That was the plan. Quick stop, polite thank you, leave. But then she'd open the door in a soft gray sweater, sleeves half pushed up, hair still a little damp from a shower. She smiled like she wasn't expecting company but didn't mind it. "Eli, right?" she'd said, remembering me from years ago, back when I was just another kid in her living room, laughing too loudly, pretending I didn't notice her watching from the kitchen doorway. Now, standing there again, years older, camera bag over my shoulder, it felt like she was seeing me for the first time. Or maybe I was seeing her properly for the first time. She invited me in, just to set the lens down somewhere safe. I followed her into the living room, where sunlight spilled through thin curtains, painting stripes across the rug. The smell of her perfume was faint, something floral, understated, but it lingered in the air like memory. She asked a few easy questions. What had I been shooting lately? Was I still doing portraits? Did I ever photograph people I cared about? I said yes sometimes, when they'd let me. "You must see things most people miss," she said, tilting her head a little. "I try to," I told her. "That's the whole point, isn't it?" She nodded slowly, her eyes narrowing, not unkindly. "Then tell me," she said. "What do you see right now?" That was when I realized how close we were standing. The light caught the edges of her face, the faint lines near her eyes, the soft part of her mouth that almost curved into a smile. Her hand rested on the back of the chair between us, her fingers tracing the wood like she needed something to do. I could have said anything, could have defused it. Instead, the truth slipped out before I could stop it. "I see someone who doesn't realize how easy she is to look at." For a second, either of us breathed. Then she gave a small, almost startled laugh, not flattered, not offended, just caught off guard. "That's dangerous honesty, Eli," she murmured. "Maybe," I said. "But it's still honest." That was when she looked at me, really looked. Her eyes softened, but her posture didn't. She stayed still, one foot angled toward the doorway like she might leave, the other rooted to the floor. And then, with the smallest shift of her voice, quieter, more intimate than before, she whispered, "You're closer than you should be." She wasn't wrong. My hand had brushed hers when I leaned forward to set the lens down. Neither of us moved it away. The space between our fingers was a fraction of an inch, but it felt like the whole world was balanced on it. Then, a sound from the hallway. A door opening. She pulled her hand back so quickly I almost doubted it had happened. Her breath caught. Her eyes flicked toward the noise. "Eli," she said softly, almost under her breath. "I stopped pretending a long time ago." And before I could ask what she meant, the footsteps came closer. The footsteps in the hallway turned out to be nothing, just the wind nudging a loose door. But the moment had already changed. She smiled, thin and practiced. "You'd better go before I make more coffee and forget you were only supposed to drop something off." Her voice was light, but her hand trembled slightly as she pushed a stray curl behind her ear. I caught it, the smallest tremor, and for some reason that felt more intimate than the brush of our fingers earlier. "I don't mind staying for coffee," I said. That made her look up again. "That's not the point, Eli." The kitchen was smaller than I remembered, neater too. Everything in its place, except her. She moved like she was trying not to take up too much space. I wondered if that was something she'd learned after the divorce, or long before it. I'd heard about her ex, distant, ambitious, the kind of man who filled rooms with noise and still made her invisible. She never talked about him, but I'd seen her once, years ago, standing outside her old house, arms wrapped around herself, looking at nothing. The kind of stillness that makes you want to say something, anything, to pull her out of it. Now, watching her pour coffee, I realized that stillness was still there, just hidden better. She handed me a mug, and when our fingers touched again, neither of us flinched. "You were always quiet," she said suddenly, half smiling. "Even back then. You'd watch everyone else talk." "Guess I still do," I said. "That can be dangerous," she replied softly. "People start to think you see too much." "I don't see everything." Her eyes lifted to mine. "No, but you see enough." Something in the way she said it, like she wasn't talking about photography anymore, made my pulse quicken. She sat across from me, elbows on the table, both hands wrapped around her cup. The window light caught in her hair, and for a second, I wanted to photograph her just like that. Not posed. Just her. "You're staring," she said, not looking up. "Sorry." "No," she murmured. "You're not." The words hung between us, bare and honest. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. She finally met my eyes, and that small, knowing smile returned, the one that seemed to pull the air out of the room. "I shouldn't be here this long," I said after a while, though I didn't move. She leaned back slightly, her expression unreadable. "And yet you are." A pause. The sound of her breath. The faint tap of her finger against the ceramic cup. Her chair scraped lightly as she stood. She walked behind me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her body, the brush of her sleeve against my shoulder. She rested her hand there for the briefest second, steady, deliberate. "You've grown up," she said, voice low, almost a whisper. I turned my head, just enough to catch her eyes over my shoulder. "So have you," I said. She smiled, not from pride, not from amusement, but something heavier. Then she let go. But the warmth of her hand stayed long after she left the room. A week passed before I saw her again. She texted first, a simple message: "Can you take a look at the photos from the gallery event?" It should have been easy routine. But I knew what that text meant, not just work. It was an excuse, the kind we both pretended to believe. When I arrived, the house smelled faintly of rain and cedar polish. A record was playing softly, something old and crackling. She met me at the door barefoot, hair tied up, a pencil still tucked behind her ear. "I didn't think you'd actually come," she said. "You asked?" I replied. "I don't ignore you." Her mouth twitched. "You probably should." We sat side by side on the couch, laptop open between us. I scrolled through the photos while she leaned in to see the screen. Every time her arm brushed mine, my focus broke. I couldn't tell which image was sharp or blurred anymore. "That one's beautiful," she said quietly, pointing at a shot of her hand adjusting a piece of artwork. "Funny, I don't remember you taking it." "I didn't mean to," I admitted. She turned to look at me. "You take a lot of things you don't mean to, don't you?" The air changed then. Small spaces started to feel smaller. The light from the screen flickered against her face, shadows on skin, breath on breath. I could see the tiny pulse at her throat. I started to say her name, but the sound of the front door unlocking made us both jolt. Her son's voice, distant but unmistakable. "Mom? You home?" Panic flashed across her face. She closed the laptop, stood too quickly. The pencil fell from her hair and rolled under the couch. "Go," she mouthed, her eyes darting toward the hallway. I hesitated, heartbeat stuttering. "Clara." She stepped close, her hand gripping my wrist, firm, pleading. "Please." Her son's footsteps moved closer. Without thinking, I slipped behind the curtain near the window, half hidden in the folds of fabric. I could see her through it, the way she composed herself, smoothed her sweater, adjusted her voice. "Hey," she said brightly as he entered. "You're early." They talked for a minute, something about dinner, work, nothing important. But the whole time, her gaze kept flicking toward where I stood unseen. When he finally went upstairs, the silence that followed was unbearable. She didn't move for a long moment, then turned toward me slowly. "You shouldn't have stayed," she whispered. "I didn't want to leave you like that." Her expression softened, then hardened again, conflicted. You make things complicated. I stepped closer, unable to stop myself. So do you. Her breath hitched as I reached out, not touching, just close enough that my fingertips hovered at her sleeve. This can't happen, she said. I know. But neither of us moved. The world outside the window was gray, fading into evening. Between us, only inches, and everything neither of us dared to say. Her hand lifted slightly, hesitated, then brushed against mine, once light as air. Eli, she breathed, almost breaking. And then, like gravity giving up, we leaned closer, not quite a kiss, but close enough that I could feel her next word on my lips. It rained that night. The kind of rain that blurs streetlights and makes every sound softer, except for your own heartbeat. Clara had texted again. Can you drop off the flash drive tonight? No punctuation, no warmth. But I went anyway. She opened the door before I even knocked, as if she'd been waiting near it. Her hair was loose, the faintest trace of fatigue around her eyes. She looked both beautiful and distant, like someone trying not to be caught wanting something. You shouldn't have come, she said, though she stepped aside to let me in. You asked? I reminded her. That was a mistake. Then tell me to leave. She didn't. Inside, the house smelled like rain and candle wax. There was music playing, low, steady, nothing romantic, but it filled the silence that might have otherwise drowned us. She reached for the flash drive, our fingers grazing again, a spark that felt too familiar now. I tried to step back, but she moved the same way at the same time, and we ended up standing too close. Her breath brushed against my neck when she exhaled. This is getting dangerous, she whispered. I think it already is. That made her look up. You don't know what people would say. I don't care what people say. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. The space between us pulsed like a heartbeat. I can't keep pretending this is nothing, I said quietly. Her eyes flickered, and I saw it, the hesitation, the want, the fear. Don't, she whispered. Please don't say it. Why? Because it's true? She shook her head, took a step back, but I followed, not to trap her, just unable to let the distance grow. Eli, you don't understand. You'll wake up one day and regret this. I'm not what you think I am. You're exactly what I think you are, I said, my voice shaking. That broke something in her. She turned away, pressed her hands to the table like she needed to steady herself. You're making this hard. Maybe it already was. Her shoulders trembled as she exhaled, then she turned back toward me, eyes glassy, guarded, but lit with something she wasn't hiding anymore. She reached up, hesitated, then brushed her hand through my hair, slow, uncertain. Her fingers lingered just long enough to make time feel heavier. Eli, she said softly, you should hate me for letting this go on. I caught her wrist, gently, afraid she'd pull away. I couldn't hate you if I tried. Her breath hitched. The distance between us vanished. The candle on the counter flickered, and the shadows on her face moved, flickering, like she couldn't decide whether to run or stay. Her hand slipped to my cheek, mine found her waist. The air tightened. She whispered, barely audible. If we cross this line, then we stop pretending, I said. And just as her lips parted, a sharp knock at the door shattered everything. We froze. Neither moved. Her pulse thudded beneath my fingers. Don't move, she breathed. The knock came again. Louder this time. The knocking didn't stop. It came sharp and fast, breaking through the quiet like a warning. Clara pulled away first, her eyes wide, chest rising unevenly. She smoothed her hair with shaking hands and whispered, Stay here. I watched her cross the room and open the door just a crack. Her son's voice slipped through, low but distinct. Mom, I forgot my jacket. A pause. His tone changed, curious now. Is someone here? Clara's reply came too quickly. No. Just the radio. You left it on earlier. A silence followed, long enough to hear the rain sliding down the windows, long enough for her lie to hang heavy in the space between them. When the door finally closed again, she leaned against it, eyes shut. Her hands trembled at her sides. "You shouldn't have come," she said again, this time, quieter, almost breaking. I stepped closer, careful not to startle her. "Did he hear?" "I don't know," she cut in, voice brittle. "And I can't afford for him to." There it was, the fear that had been lurking underneath everything. Not just what people might think, but what someone she loved might lose if they knew. She turned toward me, and for the first time, I saw anger flicker through her composure. "You think this is just about desire, don't you?" she said, voice sharp, almost trembling. "That it's something we can hide and it won't matter? That's not what I think." "Then what is it?" I hesitated, searching for words. "It's that you make me feel like I've been half asleep my whole life." That stunned her into stillness. For a moment, her expression softened, then hardened again. "You shouldn't say things like that to me, Eli. Then stop giving me reasons to." Her breath caught. "You don't know me as well as you think." She said it like a defense, but her eyes said otherwise, pleading, conflicted. And then she added, almost in a whisper, "There's more I haven't told you." I stepped closer, the room suddenly smaller. "Tell me." She turned her face away, but her voice didn't waver. "Your mother called me. Months ago. Before you came back." That stopped me cold. "She what?" "She asked me to look out for you. Said you'd been drifting. That you needed someone steady." I let that sink in, the air between us shifting, tightening. "So that's what this was?" I asked, my voice rough. "You were doing her a favor?" She flinched at that. "It started that way. And now?" Her hand rose, fingers brushing her lips as if to keep something in. She took a step toward me, then another. "Now it's not that simple." We stood there, too close again, both breathing unevenly, the truth between us raw and irreversible. Her voice came low, shaking. "If we go any further, Eli, I won't be able to take it back." "Maybe we're past taking it back," I said. Her eyes lifted to mine, fear and wanting fighting for space. The candle guttered again, throwing shadows across her face. She reached up, not touching, just hovering, as if torn between confession and surrender. "Then," she whispered, "we'll have to choose what breaks first." The house was dark except for the kitchen light, a single halo spilling across the floor. The rain had stopped, but the quiet it left behind was louder than anything else. Clara stood by the table, her back to me, both hands pressed flat against the wood as if holding herself still. Her shoulders rose and fell slowly, like she was measuring her breaths. When she spoke, her voice was steady, almost too calm. "You should leave before this turns into something we can't undo." "I think it already did," I said. She turned then, and something in her face, the mix of regret and need, hit harder than any words could have. The kind of look that made you realize you were standing in the middle of a line you swore you wouldn't cross. "I tried to stop this," she said. "You think I didn't feel it? The first day you showed up at my door, I knew. I just kept telling myself it was nothing. But it wasn't," I said quietly. "No," she admitted. "It wasn't." Her voice cracked on the last word, and she looked away. I stepped closer, one slow step at a time, until I could see the faint tremor in her hands. "Clara," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She shook her head, eyes closing. "Don't. I'm not trying to make this harder." "Yes, you are," she said, turning to face me again. "You're making it impossible." We stood there, the air thick, heavy, every sound magnified, the hum of the refrigerator, the soft rustle of her sleeve as she crossed her arms, the uneven rhythm of our breathing. "Say something," I murmured. Her eyes met mine, fierce and wet. "You think this is simple? You're young, Eli. You'll move on, and I'll be a story you tell yourself not to repeat." "That's not true." She smiled faintly, sad. "You don't know that yet." I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. My fingers grazed her cheek, and she didn't move away. Instead, Her eyes fluttered shut, her breath catching in the space between us. You make it hard to remember why I should stop, she whispered. Then don't, I said. For a heartbeat, everything else disappeared, the fear, the noise, the years between us. Just her, standing close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off her skin, her heartbeat a quiet echo of mine. But then she stepped back, not far, just enough to make the air rush in between us again. Her eyes softened, and for the first time, she smiled, not the practiced kind, but something fragile and real. I can't, she said. Not like this. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. She reached out, her hand brushing mine one last time. You should know, she said. If things were different, I would have chosen you. I swallowed hard. And if they ever are? Her thumb traced my knuckles before she let go. Then find me. When I stepped outside, the rain had started again, quiet, persistent, the kind that soaks through without you realizing. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was leaving something unfinished. I was just waiting for when the world might finally catch up to us. Weeks passed before I saw her again. Not because we promised distance, we never said that out loud, but because some silences draw themselves, and you learn to respect the shape of them. The world had softened since that night. The rain, the near confession, the almost that still lingered between us. I kept busy with work, moving from project to project, but sometimes I'd catch myself turning toward the sound of a voice that wasn't there, or slowing my step outside her street. When she finally reached out, coffee? Just coffee. I didn't even have to think before saying yes. The cafe was nearly empty. Late afternoon light spilled across the tables, dust motes drifting like lazy snow. She was already there, reading something she wasn't really reading, hands folded neatly around a cup that had gone cold. Hey, I said, sliding into the seat across from her. She looked up, smiling in that quiet way of hers, the one that didn't need effort. You look different, she said. Older? Maybe just clearer. We laughed softly, the kind of laughter that carries a memory behind it. We talked about small things first, work, her art class, the new gallery opening. But under every word sat something gentler. Acceptance, maybe? Or understanding. At one point, she reached across the table for the sugar, her fingers brushing mine. It wasn't an accident, and we both knew it. Still dangerous, I murmured. She smiled. Some things don't change. Some do, I said. And then, quieter, I miss you. Her hand stilled. She didn't pull away. You weren't supposed to, she whispered. I know. A pause. Then she said, but I did too. Outside, the sky was shifting from gray to gold. The last of the rain clung to the windows, distorting the light, like everything was being seen through a softer lens. She stood first, gathering her coat. Walk me out. I followed her to the door. The street smelled like wet pavement and coffee grounds. We lingered there, the hum of cars in the distance, her hair catching the light. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then she turned toward me, eyes steady, unguarded. I thought walking away would make it easier, she said. But it just made it quieter. I stepped closer, not the way I had before, not out of confusion or want, but something steadier. I reached up, brushing a raindrop from her temple. She didn't move. You still make it hard to leave, I said. She smiled, that small, real smile again, and leaned in, resting her forehead lightly against mine. I don't think we have to this time, she whispered. Her hand found mine, fingers lacing together, not hiding anymore. Just two people standing in the afterglow of everything they'd almost ruined, and somehow, still choosing to stay.